5 bone-chilling autopsy cases haunting the morgue at midnight. The shocking truth revealed. As the clock struck midnight, the morgue became a chilling stage for unspeakable horrors. Whispers had long haunted its sterile walls, tales of the uncanny. They said the bodies spoke when the moonlight filtered through shades, a soft murmur carried by the night breeze. Some swore they could hear the whispers echo, secrets of the dead desperate to surface. Dr. Emily Carter, a forensic pathologist with a penchant for the bizarre, felt an unsettling chill ripple through her as she entered, the fluorescent lights flickering like nervous fireflies. This was no ordinary night. On her table lay body number 1, an unidentified man who had died under mysterious circumstances. Beneath his skin, they found strange symbols etched in bruised flesh, glowing ever so softly. Emily leaned in closer, her heart pounding not just from curiosity but a primal fear of what dead hands might tell. What was this? Ancient markings lost to time? She could almost feel the weight of their stories pressing against her chest, a lump forming in her throat. Then there was the case of the woman whose limbs had twisted in unnatural directions. The coroner's room was filled with uneasy murmurs whenever her body was discussed. Each time Emily opened the drawer, the air thickened, heavy with a stillness that throbbed like a heartbeat. Was it grief? Or something darker? The lights dimmed again, casting eerie shadows that danced around her. It felt as if the bodies were watching, waiting, daring her to uncover truths best left buried. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced the night, the sound of a phone buzzing with urgency, snapping her back. What if someone had stumbled upon secrets they weren't meant to find? The walls felt closer, the air colder. Emily had to know. Would the next body reveal a story that turned her world upside down? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Emily took a deep breath, her determination igniting. She was on the brink of unraveling those midnight mysteries. Each case whispered a promise. The truth was there, hidden among the sighs of the dead, waiting for her to connect the dots. Yet every answer seemed to spin her deeper into a web of shadows. What if these cases were more than just files? What if they were warnings? The midnight hour beckoned her with all its chilling allure. She could almost taste the danger in the air. What minds lay behind these deaths? And why did she feel a thread tugging at her, pulling her deeper into the abyss? The fear was intoxicating, each case drawing her into a reality where life and death collided. What was she stepping into? What awaited her among the terrors that waited until midnight to reveal their secrets? Emily steadied herself, clenching her fists against the surge of anxiety. The cold air wrapped around her like a shroud, pushing her forward, deeper into the abyss of the unknown. The fluorescent lights blinked once more, throwing ghostly shadows on the walls. The room felt alive in a way that sent shivers skittering down her spine. Door creaking, she moved toward the next body, prepared yet terrified. This was body number 3, a young woman, hardly past 20, with delicate features marred by a menacing line of crimson staining the sheet that covered her chest. She had been found in a dark alley, discarded like refuse, a plastic bag crumpled beside her, inscribed with a single word, "Hush." Its meaning hung ominously in the air, as if seeking to merge with the secrets that death guarded so fiercely. Emily inhaled sharply as she pulled back the sheet. Instantly, she felt a presence. It was suffocating, though she was alone. The young woman's face was peaceful, almost serene. But that tranquility belied the horror that had claimed her life. Her chest bore the same symbols seen on the first body, a pattern that wove an unsettling tapestry across the contours of her flesh. What does it mean? Emily whispered to the silence, her voice trembling. She ran her fingers along the markings, feeling an electric jolt of energy within the strange designs. They seemed to pulse beneath her skin, the coldness of death morphing into the warmth of a warning. The room trembled with a cacophony of distant whispers, words barely discernible below the hum of fluorescent lights. Hush echoed among the tormented memories. What did they fear? What truths were buried beneath the surface of this haunting silence? Suddenly, the lights flickered again, this time more violently. Emily stumbled back, her heart pounding, eyes wide with dread. The brief shadows cast by the flickering lights seemed to swirl and form into figures, tightening her throat. Were the bodies truly watching? She winced as she caught movement out of the corner of her eye, harmless at first, but now it felt ominous. A dull thud broke the tension. The sound reverberated in the stillness. Emily whipped around, the chill of terror on her skin as her pulse raced. The door to the adjacent room swung open, revealing a silhouette. Just beyond the threshold, it shifted, flickering in and out of the light. A shadow? An apparition? Or was it her imagination simply running wild in the grip of the night? "Who is there?" Emily demanded, firm despite the quake in her gut. In that moment, the oppressive air became saturated with malevolence. The figure moved forward hesitantly before stepping into the light, a fellow pathologist, Dr. Mark Shelley, looking ashen and distressed. "Emily, you need to see this," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "You won't believe what I found." The weight of his words held both promise and dread. Had he uncovered secrets that linked the cases, or was it merely another disturbing piece to an already complex puzzle? The fear of the unknown clutched at Emily's heart. As she stepped toward him, the flickering lights steadied, only to reveal something creeping in the shadows. Lurking around the corner, the feeling of being watched returned, mixed with an energy that swirled heavily around them both. "Dr. Shelley, what do you mean?" Emily asked breathlessly, her gaze darting back toward the bodies. "What did you find?" He hesitated before continuing, but in that moment, the lights dimmed altogether. The silence consumed the room, and the air thickened with tension. Emily's pulse quickened, and for the first time, she felt as if time itself had come to a standstill. Outside, the night still whispered a haunting melody, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to uncover not just a truth, but a darkness that could swallow them whole. The truth was not just lurking under the skin of the bodies. It was alive, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What secrets did the shadows of the morgue hold? And would they be strong enough to pull her into the depths from which none returned? Emily's heart raced as she inhaled a shaky breath. The air felt different now, heavy, charged with the eerie hum of invisible forces she couldn't understand. Dr. Shelley's expression told her everything. The truth was not just terrifying, but also beyond comprehension. "Come with me," he urged, taking a quick glance behind him as if something were coming out of the shadows. He turned sharply, leading the way into the adjoining room, a small corridor filled with muscle and bone, where the chill of the morgue seeped into her bones. As Emily followed, the flickering lights transformed the narrow hallways into an unsettling labyrinth. Shadows danced and flickered just out of reach, warping the familiar into the grotesque. She fought against an urge to turn back, but curiosity pushed her forward, each step echoing like a beating drum. "Right here," Dr. Shelley said, gesturing toward a metal drawer. His hands were trembling slightly as he pulled it open, revealing a body she hadn't seen yet. The sheet was drawn back, revealing a young man, a little older than the previous victims, but just as lifeless. Her stomach twisted at the sight. "Look at this," he said, pointing. Emily leaned closer, her brow furrowing as she traced the contours of his arm. More symbols, not unlike those on the women. But something else caught her eye, a glint of something metallic just above his wrist. She reached for it, hesitating for a split second, the chill of the morgue whipping around her, 1,000 warning bells sounding in her mind. But she had to know. Sliding her fingers underneath the skin, she tugged gently, revealing a small, curled piece of paper sealed within a slice of flesh. "What in the world?" Dr. Shelley muttered, his voice a ghostly whisper. "What is it?" Emily's eyes were wide, her pulse thrumming in her ears. She carefully unraveled the paper, trembling. It was stained with something dark. Was it blood? This felt wrong. Horribly wrong. "Emily, be careful," Dr. Shelley warned, his own nervousness surfacing as he wagged his finger at her. But she didn't hear him. The words on the paper sent icy fingers down her spine. "It's your turn," it read in jagged, frantic handwriting. Every muscle in her body tensed. "What? No. No, this can't be," she stumbled back, the note slipping from her fingers to flutter to the floor like a fallen leaf. A horrified gasp escaped her lips. Dr. Shelley bent down, carefully picking up the note, his expression shifting from curiosity to fear. "We have to get out of here. Now." Emily's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the calm that should accompany reason. The shadows seemed to shift with malicious intent, as though aware of her growing dread. "But what does it mean?" she squeaked as panic washed over her. "Is it a warning? A threat?" Dr. Shelley shot her a dark look. "In our profession, Emily, threats aren't just idle words. This is bigger than we thought." Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the room, rattling the walls, echoing through Emily's very bones. The lights flickered violently once more, plunging them into darkness for a terrifying moment. "Stay close," Dr. Shelley called, his voice slicing through the gloom. "We need to find the exit." Emily's breath quickened. What if something was already here, lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike? And what about the others? The bodies felt more alive than ever, their haunting gaze weighing heavily on her. Just as she felt herself slipping into despair, a cold breeze swept through the corridor, somehow alive and aware. It whispered secrets, promises of darkness that sent jolts of fear through her. "Emily!" Dr. Shelley's voice pulled her back just as she caught a flicker in the corner of her eye. The figures in the shadows were shifting again, their outlines forming and reforming with hatred in their gaze. "Run!" she yelled, but before they could take off, a new presence loomed from the end of the corridor, blocking their escape. Emboldened by trepidation, Emily stared at what awaited them. The thing she had only glimpsed in shadows now fully materialized. Its intentions as sinister as the stitched skin of the bodies they just encountered. And in that moment, everything slowed their breaths. The mounting dread. Even time itself seemed to freeze as she realized they had walked into a trap. Was this darkness what the bodies had been warning her about? With every passing second, the air thickened, and the coldness of death whispered promises of despair that surrounded them. What had they awakened? And would they find a way out before it claimed them? As the figure moved closer, she instinctively took a step back, but the shadows behind them began to writhe. Too many truths lay shrouded here. Emily had to muster every ounce of courage she had. "Are you ready?" she whispered to Dr. Shelley, who looked uncertain, the tremor in his voice betraying him. But before either could answer, the darkness surged forward, and she braced for impact. What would emerge from the depths of this cursed night? The darkness rushed at them, a living entity hungry for their fear. Emily's heart hammered in her chest as she felt the weight of something unseen push against her. Dr. Shelley gripped her arm tightly, his eyes wide with panic as he scanned their surroundings. "Back, we need to," he began, but the words got lost amid the scream of metal against metal. The tall figure silhouetted against the flickering light shifted, a grotesque mash of human shapes and shadows, barely holding onto its form. Emily's instincts screamed at her to flee, but her feet felt rooted to the cold floor. She could see glimpses of rotting flesh, eyes that seemed to glow in the deepening darkness, mocking her very existence. A whisper slithered through the air, tangible and menacing. "Help us," it hissed, multiplying into a cacophony of tortured voices that seemed to invade her mind. "Join us." Dr. Shelley's grip tightened further, yanking her back as he shouted, "This way." He pulled her toward a flickering exit sign visible in the distance, a beacon of hope amid despair. They dashed ahead, but the shadows writhed around their legs as if trying to drag them back. Emily could hear the chill of breath mingled with low growls. Panic surged through her, adrenaline pumping as she fought against the palpable terror closing in. "Don't look back," Dr. Shelley urged, but dread prickled at her senses, knotting in her stomach. She wanted to know what pursuit lay behind them, but there was no time for fear. Their shoes skidded against the tile floor. Every footfall echoed an urgency that bounced off the walls. The exit loomed closer, a promise of safety, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that freedom was just a fantasy. Almost there, Dr. Shelley yelled, heart racing in unison with hers. But as they neared the door, the figure lunged. Its form elongated, twisting at unnatural angles, reaching for them with grim determination. Go, now, Emily screamed. Double time now, her breath coming out in ragged gasps. She sprinted ahead, reaching the door first, the cold metal pressing against her palms. For a fraction of a second, relief flooded her. Then came the brutal realization that Dr. Shelley hadn't made it through. No, she cried, her voice a hoarse whisper. She turned back, almost rootless, as he struggled against the darkness. They locked eyes, the fear and determination exchanging like a live wire between them. I'll hold it back. Just go, he shouted. The shadows began to seep into his body. Emily fought against the urge to run back, but she could see the determination shimmering behind his eyes. She knew there would be no saving him. He was already caught in its web. Dr. Shelley, please, she begged, tears stinging her eyes. Now, he roared, a surge of strength igniting his words. Emily turned and flung herself through the doorway just as a scream erupted behind her. Cracking the air like glass shattering, she stumbled out into the hallway, the oppressive darkness releasing her as the door slammed shut. She leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, her mind racing. What had just happened? And why did it feel like the shadows had followed her? Emily forced herself to regain her composure, but her heart pounded, urging her forward. She could still hear the distant chaos behind her, a grating reminder of the horrors left behind. She had to find a way out and answers. The chilling note still echoed in her mind, suffocating her rational thought. It's your turn. The deeper meaning of those words wrapped around her like a clenched fist, stifling the hope of a safe escape. But no, Emily was not done fighting. The night wasn't finished with her yet. Determined, she pressed ahead, her thoughts racing faster than her feet. She needed a plan, clarity. She could only hope that in unraveling this nightmare, she would discover where it all began. As she rounded a corner, a faint light flickered at the end of the corridor. A glimmer of hope, or something far worse. Her pulse quickened, knowing she was walking deeper into the unknown. Would she face the nightmare again or uncover the truth behind the horrors that haunted the morgue? With every step, a palpable tension built, and she braced herself. What awaited her in that dimly lit room? Only one way to find out. Emily stepped closer to the flickering light, her breaths shallow and fast. Each pulse of illumination fought against the oppressive darkness that seemed determined to swallow her whole. The air felt heavy, pregnant with an unspeakable tension. Just beyond the edge of that light, something stirred. Was it her imagination, or could she see vague forms shifting in the corners? She held her breath as she approached, her fingers twitching at her sides. The floor creaked beneath her weight, a sound like a desperate sigh reverberating through the deserted hallway. As she drew nearer, the light steadied, illuminating a small, open room. The walls were smeared with a sickly yellowish stain that seemed to pulse under the dimness. In the center, a table stood, starkly cold and gleaming. The familiar sheen of polished steel clashed violently with the horror of the situation. She stepped in, eyes darting around, searching for something, anything. Her mind raced, heart pounding. Dr. Shelley was gone, and now she was utterly alone. Whispers fluttered in the air again, soft like rustling leaves, almost inaudible. Help us, they echoed around her, mingling with her racing thoughts. Sweat trickled down her spine as she fought the dread threatening to take root in her gut. But why were they calling out to her? Enough, she shouted, her voice desperate against the encroaching darkness. The whispers spiraled into a frantic chorus. Their relentless murmurs brushed against her consciousness, urging her to listen. It felt as if the room itself was alive, aching with long-buried secrets. She scanned the table, and suddenly her eyes widened in horror. A body lay there, covered with a white sheet. Just a body, she muttered under her breath, forcing herself to move closer. But she was drawn in like a moth to flame. Who was it? The thought made her shiver. With trembling fingers, she grasped the edge of the sheet and pulled it back. Cold dread flooded through her as she recognized the face. No, the word escaped her lips in a strangled cry. It was a young woman, her features twisted in eternal agony. A lab coat was draped over her, torn and stained, distinctly the same as Dr. Shelley's. A surge of horror mixed with confusion clamored in Emily's mind. What happened? She looked around frantically, as if the room could answer. The whispers escalated, as if sensing her panic. Join us. Then, abruptly, silence fell, slicing through the atmosphere with a brutal clarity. Emily stood frozen, wide-eyed and breathless. The flickering overhead light sputtered again, casting grotesque shadows that danced along the walls. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the corridor behind her. Emily's heart plummeted into her stomach. She whirled around just in time to see the door swing open, slamming against the wall with a force that sent a shiver down her spine. A figure emerged, partially obscured by the dark, the outline jagged and distorting as it stepped deeper into the light. Emily felt her throat constrict. She couldn't see the face, but she felt those eyes on her before. Emily, it was a low growl, rumbling like thunder, familiarity clawing at the edges of her memory. You shouldn't have come here, her instincts screamed to run, but her feet felt trapped in place. The memory of Dr. Shelley's sacrifice loomed large in her mind. She had to confront whatever was before her, whatever existence had pulled her back here. As the figure stepped forward, the light caught its face, twisted, familiar, malevolent. Who are you? She gasped, her voice a mere whisper against the rising tide of terror. The response was chilling, unyielding. I am what you've brought back, Emily. And now it's your turn. With an unearthly howl, shadows spilled from the walls, rushing towards her, closing in with consuming haste. Emily felt herself teeter on the edge of darkness once more. What do you do when the past comes alive? When the horror you thought you escaped is back for more? The shadows engulfed her, a suffocating blanket of terror. Emily wanted to scream, to shatter the silence that surrounded her like a thick fog, but the sound lodged in her throat. She was immobile, paralyzed by fear as the chilling figure advanced. Join us, the phrase reverberated in the dark, seeming to come from all around her, binding her like a web spun from pure dread. They weren't just whispers but voices. She recognized echoes of the lost, the damned. Suddenly, the figure lunged, and Emily stumbled back, hitting the slick surface of the table. The metallic clang resonated sharply in the stillness, reverberating through the air as if summoning something primal within her. Emily, don't you remember? The figure crooned, moving closer, its breath a rancid wind against her skin. The light flickered again, and in that moment, she saw the sinister smile, its eyes gleaming with a malign hunger. They've been waiting for you. Panic surged through her veins. Frantic, she searched for an escape, but the room was a trap, its walls closing in. Those whispers grew louder, a cacophony demanding her attention, stirring memories she fought to suppress. Stop, she yelled, forcing her voice through the rising tide of anxiety, the twisted familiarity of the being sending her heart racing. What do you want from me? An eerie laugh punctured the silence, hanging in the air like rotting fruit. What do I want? It stepped further into the light, and recognition struck with sickening force. It was Michael, his features twisted by despair, his once kind eyes now shadowed with vengeance. I want justice. Images flooded her mind. Blood-stained floors, piercing screams, and the cold, lifeless bodies that haunted her even in sleep. She was a witness, not just to the horrors that gripped this place, but to the horrors she had tried to forget. No, you can't be, she whispered, her voice trembling. Oh, but I am, Michael hissed, creeping ever closer, each deliberate step echoing with a dreadful truth. You brought me back, Emily. You sought the truth, but only chaos lies ahead. Emily's pulse quickened. The weight of guilt settled heavy on her chest. I didn't mean the words tumbled out, feeling useless and small as Michael loomed over her. The walls seemed to pulse with the memories of the lost, the cries of the abandoned reaching a deafening peak. But then, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Dr. Shelley had believed in her, had trusted her instincts. Though Emily had stumbled into horror, she could still fight. "I won't let you control me," she declared, feeling a spark of defiance flicker. The room shuddered around them as her resolve ignited a response from Michael, confusion darting across his twisted features. For a split second, she glimpsed the boy she once knew, buried under layers of wrath and despair. "This isn't who you are," she cried, pressing against the dark depths threatening to swallow them both. The shadows recoiled, swirling with hesitant energy, and Emily took a step forward, refusing to give in. "You deserve peace. Let go of this." Her voice soared above the cacophony, rallying the lost souls around them. But the figure outside the flickering light lunged forward, and Emily felt a sudden pull, a desperate need to stand her ground. "Not done yet," she thought fiercely as she confronted the being, determined to reclaim what was lost. Then, just as the darkness threatened to pull her down, the door slammed shut, trapping someone or something inside with them. A rattle echoed ominously. Emily turned just in time to see the handle twisting slowly, a shadow like none she'd ever seen lurking behind the door, ready to crash into the fragile reality she'd built. What escaped on the other side? Could she resist the darkness long enough to find out? Or would this be the end of her fight? Emily's heart thundered in her chest, an urgent rhythm driving her towards the edges of sanity. The door handle turned with deliberate slowness, each creak echoing like a death knell in the room. The oppressive darkness whispered promises of despair, each flicker of the light painting grotesque shadows on the walls, contorting into long-lost faces she once knew. "Don't you remember, Emily? You need to open the door," Michael taunted, his voice a chilling caress that sent shivers racing down her spine. "You've summoned them. You can't run from your choices." "No," she screamed, a raw, desperate plea that rumbled through her. "I want tea." She lunged toward the door, her instincts guiding her as the handle twisted more violently. Whatever lay beyond that door wanted in. It craved darkness, chaos, a tribute to spirits long forgotten but never at peace. The shadows curled closer, threatening to devour her in their inky embrace. Just then, a loud bang jolted through the room. It was as if a storm had crashed inside her mind. Emily pressed against the door, her palms slick with sweat, the handle vibrating under her touch. Doubt clawed at the corners of her mind. What had she invited into this world? "Open it," came a distant voice, not Michael's, but something eerily familiar. It was Dr. Shelley, her mentor, her guide. "You have to do this, Emily. You can't let them win." Emily's resolve wavered. Would opening the door bring salvation or more suffering? Yet, the part of her that refused to back down fought, reminding her that truth, no matter how painful, was the only way forward. Squeezing her eyes shut, Emily inhaled deeply, steadying herself amidst the turmoil. She could feel the weight of 100 memories crashing on her like a rogue wave, each one splintering into a new revelation. The room contracted, the air thickening with ghosts of her past, those she had lost in the chaos, and those she had abandoned to sorrow. "Stop!" she shrieked suddenly, her voice piercing the suffocating press of despair. "I want to play your game." The echoes shrank back, and for a moment, all was still. The handle stilled. Even Michael seemed taken aback, surprised by the strength that emanated from her confident stance. But the pause was short-lived. The rattling resumed, stronger this time. The growing noise pushed against the door like a tidal wave, each hammering blow sending tremors through her core. "Emily, they're coming," Michael shouted, his voice morphing into a blend of panic and fury. "I know what I must do," she shouted back, steeling herself. She drew upon the last remnants of her will, a flickering flame in a sea of darkness. Every fiber of her being trembled, but she was done with fear. With a deep exhale, she threw her body against the door, ready to confront whatever fate awaited her on the other side. As the door snapped open, lights exploded into brilliance, blinding her momentarily. A torrent of voices surged forth, mingling into a cacophony that was both heavenly and hellish. She staggered back, her heartbeat pounding like a drum in her ears. What emerged from that vortex? Were they lost souls, or were they the demons gnawing at her sanity? The figures coalesced, revealing themselves in the harsh fluorescent glow. Their expressions were twisted with pain, anger, and an unsettling sense of relief. Emily, they chorus echoed, a haunting symphony that resonated with long-buried guilt. We are here for you. As the night deepened, her breath quickened in panic. An icy hand clasped her shoulder. She spun around, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped her, claiming her as their own. What was their true purpose? Everything teetered on a knife's edge. This was not just a confrontation. It felt like a reckoning. Would she face the truth shining before her, or be consumed by the darkness once and for all? In the fleeting seconds of shock, a chilling truth struck her. This was only the beginning. Emily, the truth is hidden somewhere within, Michael hissed, the shadows flickering dangerously. And just like that, the door slammed shut behind her, leaving her trapped in a world where every decision echoed back, reverberating with the ghosts of her past. What awaited her in this relentless darkness? Would she find a way out or become another echo lost forever? Emily gasped as the cold shadows gripped her tighter, slipping through her fingers like sand. The chorus of voices grew louder, a relentless tide of sorrow clawing at her heart. Panic surged like a tsunami as she tried to steady her racing breath, but the icy band around her chest tightened with each moment. Who are you? She screamed into the suffocating dark, hoping her voice could cut through the clamor. A figure stepped forward, emerging from the depths as if pulled by an invisible string. It was a man, his face contorted in anguish. The familiar features sent a jolt through her. It was Daniel, her younger brother, lost to the very demons she had tried to escape. Emily, his voice, a whisper laced with despair, seeped into her, warm enough to ignite the memories of happier days. You shouldn't have come here. You have to find a way out before it consumes you too. Daniel. She reached out, wanting to hold him, to shake the heaviness off his shoulders. I thought you were gone. His gaze dropped, shadows sweeping over his face. I came back to warn you. The choices you made brought them here. Before she could grasp his words, the noise swelled the cacophony of countless voices bleeding into one another. Faces began to swirl, some she recognized, others mere strangers. Each one wore a mask of regret, dark eyes filled with pleading despair. Stop it, Emily cried, shaking her head as if that could dispel the haunting sights and sounds. I won't let you take me. Suddenly, the ground beneath her shifted, crackling like glass. A glimmer of light flickered in the distance, and with it came an overwhelming urge drawn to something that felt both terrifying and inviting. Was it a way to escape or a trap deeper into the abyss? Emily, don't. Michael's voice rose above the chaos, his panic obvious. You don't understand. Following the light could lead you to the truth, or it could bury you forever. Her heart raced as she fought against the pull, unsure if the truth was worth the risk. She could feel Daniel's presence fading, drawing back into the darkness, and she couldn't let that happen again. Emily, he cried, pain etched across his features. If you turn away now, you'll never find peace. The light flickered, dimming and then brightening again. With each blink, it promised clarity yet threatened to consume her whole. Desperation clawed at her as multiple choices danced around her mind. The light appeared to freakishly swell, illuminating the torment surrounding her. Choose! The voices yelled as one, echoing in a haunting symphony that made the walls tremble. Choose before it's too late. With a pulse of adrenaline surging through her veins, Emily stepped forward, her heart a frantic drum. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, enticing her with the promise of knowledge. She could no longer distinguish between fear and courage, her instincts overriding rational thought. As she reached out toward the burning glow, a heavy silence fell. The moment stretched, time grinding to a halt. Would she grasp the truth waiting just beyond her fingertips or allow herself to be swallowed by darkness? Just as her fingers grazed the surface of the brilliance, an explosion of sound rocked her back. Everything fractured the room. The voices, her fragile sense of self. The light flickered dangerously. Emily! Michael's voice cut through the chaos like a knife, echoing her name in haunting tones. And then, darkness enveloped her again. The decision loomed over her like a guillotine. What remained? Would she uncover the deepest of truths or find herself lost in this nightmare forever? In the heavy silence that followed, a whispered phrase cut through the shadows. The truth can either be your salvation or damnation. With that ominous statement echoing in her mind, she braced for whatever revelation lay ahead, aware that time was running out. What would emerge from the dark depths? Would it be salvation, or would it lead to her final unraveling? Emily stumbled backward, breathless and disoriented. The crackling dark seemed to pulse with malicious intent, each flicker of light whispering lies in her ear. Faces flashed before her, melting into one another. They haunted her, taunting her, reminding her of the choices that had brought her here. Trying to ground herself, she pressed her palms against the cold, rough wall. It was solid, but she felt anything but secure. "Daniel!" she shouted again, desperation tangling her words. "What do I have to do? How can I escape?" The shadows danced, flickering as if they were alive. Their breath was hot and angry. The light, now a distant, pulsating heartbeat, grew faint and then radiant again, migrating like a star across the universe. "Find your truth." Daniel's voice hung in the air, as if suspended by an unseen thread. "It's in the choices you've ignored." Ignoring the chaos around her, Emily concentrated. Choices. What choices? Memories burst forth, echoing across her mind. The day she left home, the people she hurt, the lies that had shielded her from her own reality. Each decision had pushed her deeper into this nightmare. The ground trembled. She looked down. Swirling darkness spiraled beneath her feet. "I haven't ignored them," she screamed, anger and fear blending into a single, raw emotion. "I've tried to be brave." "Brave?" A snickering voice jeered from the darkness. It wasn't Daniel, and it wasn't Michael. She spun around, searching for the source. "Running away is not bravery, Emily. It's cowardice." Shadows coalesced into a spectral figure, a woman with hollow eyes and a mouth twisted into a sneer. Emily recognized her, a face from her past. It was Lisa, a former friend who had spiraled into addiction. The familiarity turned icy in Emily's veins. "You lost everything," Lisa spat, her voice filled with malice. "And you think you can escape? No. I refuse to be trapped here with you." Emily flung back, feeling strength rise within her. "You're not real. Maybe not real, but your guilt is." Lisa stepped closer, her voice a chilling whisper. "You packaged your pain and locked it away. Now it's time to unwrap it, if you dare." Emily backed away, heart racing. Guilt? Yes, it gnawed at her. But she was more than mistakes. The light flickered cheerfully, urging her forward. Maybe it was time to confront that truth, whatever it may be. "Daniel!" She called out again, searching the dark for her brother's face. "Help me!" But there was no answer. The chaos continued to thrive, voices skewered with agony. It was now or never. With every ounce of courage, she turned toward the light, accepting that whatever lay ahead, truth, pain, or salvation, was part of her journey. The choice was hers to embrace. As she stepped further into that searing brightness, an excruciating scream echoed through the void. It was a sound etched in anguish, not just from the shadows but from somewhere deep within herself, resonating louder than any voice. Then silence enveloped her as she crossed the threshold. Time seemed to warp. She felt weightless yet suffocated, trapped in between choices and consequences. The world melted around her, with only the light pinning her reality. And then, all at once, the chaotic backdrop transformed. Emily found herself in a sterile room. Bright overhead lights cast a clinical glow over disarray. Equipment was strewn everywhere. The air stale, heavy with the scent of antiseptic, Sitting in the corner, immobile, was a figure tied to a gurney, a body draped in white. Was it a person or merely a remnant of her fears? Emily, a weak voice croaked from the figure in the corner, making her heart wrench tighter than it had in the presence of shadows. The truth is waiting and it knows your name. She approached cautiously, pulse quickening, knowing she was about to confront the very essence of her tormented existence. What lay beneath that sheet? Would it reveal the darkness she carried? Or was this yet another piece of her unraveling? With a deep breath, Emily lifted the corner of the sheet, her heart pounding with suspense as shadows gathered around her, whispering of horrors to come. As she peeled back the white sheet, Emily's heart thundered in her chest. She stood on the precipice of revelation, her hands trembling. What lay beneath was not merely flesh and bone. It was the manifestation of her darkest fears and regrets. The face revealed was still and hauntingly familiar. It was her own, twisted by pain, veins exposed on pale skin, eyes closed tight, as if trapped in eternal slumber. No! The word escaped her lips like a gasp, a confession of her fears. It was her face, contorted in anguish but layered with a peace that felt disarmingly otherworldly. Emotions flooded her: grief, rage, and something else, something simmering just beneath the surface. Acceptance. Tears burned her eyes as she stood rooted to the spot, the shadows encroaching like a suffocating fog. "This is it," she whispered in disbelief. "This is my truth." Then, the cacophony of voices surged, morphing into an anguished wail. The shadows writhing around her whispered her failings, accusing her of cowardice, of abandoning her past, the very things she had fought so hard to bury. "You are incomplete," they hissed, their haunting chime vibrating through her bones. The figure on the gurney seemed to shimmer. Emily felt a pull, a recognition in the depths of the shadows. Her eyes locked onto the lifeless form, understanding finally washing over her. This was not merely death, it was the confrontation she had long avoided. If I embrace this, she thought, realizing these shadows weren't her captors but the remnants of her truth. Long hidden from sight, that a memory burst forth, jagged and raw. Her brother's laughter echoed alongside the void of his absence. "You can't run away from yourself." Daniel's voice flared in her mind, locked in the shadows where he once stood beside her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry." The shadows hissed, but this time the sound softened, forming a harmonious rhythm. She felt warmth radiating in the air, breaking through the coldness that had gripped her heart. "I won't let fear define me anymore," Emily asserted, swallowing down her anguish. "I will not be held hostage by who I was." In that moment, she sensed shifting around her, the very fabric of reality bending as the legs of the gurney appeared to buckle. Her reflection smiled gently, a reminder of who she was beneath the fear. "Accept me, and we will be free," it seemed to say. Determination ignited a fire in her veins. "I will face my consequences." Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped forward, reaching out to her own form. The contact felt electric, and the shadows seethed, swirling fiercely around her. Suddenly, the room shattered like glass, splintering into a kaleidoscope of light and darkness. Bursts of memories flooded in and out like a storm, a swirl of laughter, heartbreak, sorrow, and healing. Each moment fractured and reformed, illuminating her path ahead. She stood unwavering as the cacophony fell silent and all pain morphed into understanding. "I forgive myself," Emily cried, her voice a powerful declaration. The shadows twisted and danced, the air alive with a tremor of acceptance. In a crescendo of light and shadow, she felt a weight lift, like chains snapping away, releasing her from the clutches of despair. The room transformed, setting her free. "This is my truth," she proclaimed, and at that moment, the shadows unfurled, receding back into the recesses of her mind, whispering promises of peace. Emily blinked, finding herself outside the morgue, night air crisp and cool wrapping around her like a reassuring embrace. The moon hung low in the sky, shining brightly upon her as if affirming her freedom. For the first time, the darkness no longer lurked behind her, she had acknowledged it, faced it, and stood resolute in the light. The night felt rejuvenating, and she breathed deeply, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. With each exhale, she released the unhealthy burdens of loss and regret, feeling lighter. No more whispers haunted her, just the crisp sound of her own heartbeat, steady and alive. "Time to live," she whispered, determination etched on her face. She would carry her truth, not as a burden but as a badge of honor, a reminder of the shadows she had overcome. Turning her gaze to the wide expanse of the night sky, Emily pressed onward, ready to forge her path anew, surrounded by the starlight of countless possibilities. But the shadows still lingered, always present, watching and waiting. The night was not over, and there was more to uncover. Emily took a step forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. And you, dear friends, as the story draws to a close, remember to carry your truths with pride. The journey doesn't end here. Join me in discovering more as we explore other tales that linger in the night. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure more adventures like this one. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us connect. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this thrilling conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.